Good Morning Geelong, brought to you by www.guestmedia.com.au.
Well, we all know that there is a lot happening in Geelong, certainly in terms of infrastructure and new growth, particularly on the waterfront and within the city. We've seen in the local paper lots of news, lots of stories and pictures about new developments and proposals that may or may not be coming our way. It's certainly very exciting, and Rawlo has a lot to talk about in terms of the economic development of the city. He's going to take us through his perspectives and some information as well on what's happening within the city. Over to Rawlo. Stay tuned.
As we look at the economic front of the city of Greater Geelong and its surrounding regions, you've got to think about the small businessmen. And here in Belmont Retail Traders Association, we're joined by their president, Mr. Vince Albanese. How are you, Vince?
Pretty good, thank you.
You're looking always elegantly dressed, sartorially elegant.
Oh, well, thank you. It goes along part of the business.
Part of the business, yeah. Men's clothes wear, that's for sure. Vince, we're looking at the city of Greater Geelong, a wonderful development that's taking place along the waterfront, the new big shopping centres located in the city, the outer area. Here in Belmont, which is a wonderful suburb of Geelong, having lived here for 38 years, how are the retail traders standing up to the pressures, the financial pressures that people are feeling in the general community?
In retail, I mean, what's affected us more than really anything is not so much the big retail centres all exploding around us. That certainly is a factor, but all the bad news at once, where the interest rates were just pumped up and Reserve Bank was putting fear into people, they're going to keep putting them up, and then petrol, and then bad news from America every second day, and then the papers putting up Black Friday and Bleak Tuesday and scaring the hell out of people. People looking at the superannuation and getting a heart attack, and then shares going down. And with the explosion of retail that we've had, it's an added factor. Generally, for small business, plazas are sort of really bad for it. Really bad. I know of a business. He had one store in Geelong and two in Melbourne. He was in a couple of plazas. He was in business 27 years. He declared himself bankrupt a few weeks ago. And I know there's a few extra vacant shops around. And a lot of the city stores that are not in the plazas are really struggling. Like where maybe a lot of the council thought that they were booming and that it would bring more people into the city. It'll bring more people into the city in the centres, and that's where it stays. It ends up generating less foot traffic for the small business. The one who gets affected is really local small business. There's not many local small businesses that are in plazas. They're sort of way too demanding. Like for a shop 2/3 the size of our shop, you're looking at your first year at least $100,000 of rent, and after 5 years, that'll be up to around 120, 130, and then they want you to refit it, and then they'll say, "I'll get quotes. Use our bloke," and of course that's going to sting you again. And so generally they haven't got many local small businesses in there. The buildings are 100% owned by Melbourne. The business is 100% owned by Melbourne. To put it mildly, shopping in a plaza is only a touch better than shopping in Melbourne. It's not comparable to shopping in a place where it's 100% Geelong owned. There's about 5 times the amount of money he retains in a place that's 100% Geelong owned. So it's only marginally better.
How are Belmont retail traders reacting to some of the challenges that are ahead of us?
Well, a lot of them, I certainly, you have to tighten up. I know a lot of them have sort of cut their hours. A lot of them can't cut much more because they're in it doing it themselves. But they've had to buy less stock. I know a lot of the manufacturers, because we just finished a Australia-wide fair, they're sort of starting to suffer. But unfortunately, the ones that suffer most are the sort of little manufacturers again. And then when they go, they don't get replaced by anybody. You just find that you can't get that service anymore. It's like shoe repairs. There's one down at Warren Ponds, but geez, it's hard to find them, isn't it?
A cobbler boy.
Yeah.
Now, as far as you talk about stock, are we still promoting Buy Australia?
We are, if you can find it. We've got a little bit of our own Australian stock, but once again, the consumer generally finds it hard to want to pay for it. I mean, in some cases, it's false economy. The Chinese, I've got to admit, are improving their quality as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as the Belmont retail area, we're looking forward to some changes, some progressive changes.
Yeah, I reckon. I reckon it'll be tough to. You won't see too much more infrastructure in the next few years. I don't think anyone's going to be able to afford to do it. I know there is the pizza shop down the road is vacant now, and unfortunately we did have our local florist across the road. It was there for about 30 years. That's gone. But there's a new one opened up. I know the lady who just opened up, and she's quite good. So hopefully she'll make a go of that where the old one couldn't.
So it is a real challenge. We're seeing a lot of the shops with big sales on. Is that to keep moving stock or old stock?
It's to try to move as much of their present stock as they can, because most shops you buy and you plan your stock months ago. So with such an unexpected retail downturn, you're in a position where you're overstocked. So you've just got to try to get rid of as best you can. But it is hard when the consumer is tightening up as well, and when every second day you're facing some sort of real bad news. That sort of, normally we'd only get, one-off bad news. It might be interest rates, it might be petrol, might be a share market plunge, but it sort of all happened at once, hasn't it, Ervin?
And it's interesting that probably people don't realise that those sorts of international type effects and the Australian effects can reach us at grassroots level.
Yes, it definitely has. I know a lot of the restaurants around Geelong, some of them have been saying 30% down on last year. And I know in retail, there's been weeks where that's common now as well. And of course, any person would realise that if that keeps happening, something's got to give, unfortunately.
Are you finding any form of new customer base coming into the Belmont area, or is it the continued regulars that have been living in and around the Belmont Heighton areas that are your customers?
I think it's mainly the continued regulars. There seems to be the opinion of the new plazas seems to be that under 50s, especially under 30s, like it. But apart from that, they don't really like it much. They see plazas are sort of seen as real young orientated fashion places to go, but very hard to cater for. Mostly, especially customers over 50, seem to think there's nothing there much for them. And it's like I'm not trying to denigrate plazas, but they're like vomit. All vomit can be different, but vomit's vomit. That's what I call it. That's what I consider what the plaza offers you. Just different forms of vomit.
Different forms of vomit. It's a very interesting element to see. But Belmont holding together at the present time.
Well, at the moment we are, but I mean, a lot of people, if they're in trouble, they won't come out and really outwardly help you. You just go there and you see a key in a lock on the window and you think, oh God, didn't see that one coming.
But we still continue on. Vince Albanese, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Pleasure it is, and we look forward to a better season from the Richmond Football Club next year.
Well, we do. We weren't too bad this year. We're on the way up.
We're on the way up, yes, and that's what we are in Geelong retail and our economic development. Believe me, we will withstand it and we will come back. We'll go to a break in Good Morning Geelong, and we'll be back with Megan and the World of Sport.